Hi, friends. Welcome to another History Myth Monday. This one is actually a twofer. I am going to talk about King John, who I spoke about in my second episode of my podcast, along with Magna Carta. But there are a lot of scurrilous reports about John. This is definitely not to try to rehabilitate him. I think he was a terrible king. However, there are some things that have been said about him that are more than likely not true, but they all do go towards the same kind of theme, and I'll get into that when I'm done telling you what they are. Now, I did kind of touch on this in the podcast about how there were reports from noblemen of John basically assaulting their wives and daughters. He'd invite the family over for dinner, and then it's, I'm going to take your wife back, and I'm going to take your daughter back to like my room, and then come back and then talk about what he just did. More than likely, this didn't happen. We do know that John was unfaithful to his first wife, Isabel of Gloucester. He had several bastard children while they were married, but there are no bastard children reported during his second marriage to Isabel of Angoulême. Doesn't mean that there aren't any, just doesn't mean that we don't know of them. And also the men who were reporting this were also the ones who were rebelling against the king, so you needed reasons why, because you weren't supposed to rebel against your king. But if he was doing something as awful as that, like, people could be like, okay, I can see that. But there are no other contemporary sources besides the disaffected noblemen. Now, another thing is that instead, not just John being unfaithful, but his wife, Isabel of Angoulême, being unfaithful, and that he would have her lovers strangled in her bed and then hung up on, above her bed. Probably not. That's a pretty big thing. And there would have been a lot more contemporary news about that than just some reports from Europe. Especially because a queen is never alone. Neither is the king. There's somebody there from the time you get up in the morning to the time you go to bed and for the entire time that you're sleeping. You've always got people around you. So it would be a massive conspiracy if she was cheating on the king, especially with multiple lovers. And also the queen getting pregnant by one of these lovers could completely mess up the succession, because now whose child is that? Is that the king's child? Is that the lover's child? So it would have been a much bigger deal. She probably would have been dealt with much more harshly, as you can see later on, several hundred years later, with Anne Boleyn, who also did not cheat on Henry VIII with multiple men. But, she was very harshly dealt with, whereas Isabel was never treated like that. So those kinds of things, not true, no records for that. But we have another one, and I did also allude to this in the episode about the de Bruce family. They pissed off the king. The king took the wife and the oldest child and threw them in prison and basically forgot about them. They were found starved to death. Now, that is what we know. But the myth is that when they were found, the son was found with bite marks, and pieces of his flesh on, his arms bitten off, meaning that his mother ate him. So that is most likely not true. That is most likely a myth. But all of this goes to show that people believed that John would do the things that people said. It was believable that he was assaulting noblemen's wives and daughters. It was believable that he would kill his wife's lovers. It was believable that not only did he put this woman and her child in prison, that he starved them to death, and that it was so bad that she ate her own son. That's the thing, is that he was so bad that people believed those kinds of things about him without much prompting. So I encourage you to stay curious and go look at this stuff for yourself. And then way you can get the actual history rather than just the salacious rumor or what's on a television show or in a fiction book. Always, use that as a jumping off point to go and find out the reality for yourself. So continue to watch my podcast here. You can also go to wherever you listen to your podcasts and like and subscribe here. I promise I am getting out my next episode as quickly as possible. My hands are just a little painful right now, so writing is a little bit difficult, but I'm hoping to have that out for this coming weekend. So leave a comment, ask a question, anything like that. Join the community, subscribe, all of those things you're supposed to do. And stay curious and stay snarky. Bye.